Hello, YouTube. I'm just waiting for my TikTok people to turn up. Okay. It's a parenting Q&A. Just waiting for people to turn up on TikTok. Hello. While we're waiting for everyone to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from. What part of the world are you in? I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. It's Canada Day today. So where are you from? Canada Day today, and then it's 4th of July in the States. Monday, Tuesday. Morning, where are you? I'm here. What time is it? 6 o'clock at night here in Vancouver. Where are you from? Okay, just waiting to hear where everyone's from. If you're on YouTube, my audience is on TikTok, so that's why I'm always looking sideways, but I record my lives on YouTube. Melbourne. Oh, okay. I spent 20 years in Australia, Sydney and Brisbane. My kids were born and raised there. So all of my baby terms are Aussie because I raised my kids in Australia. So it's I'm learning now how to say diapers and all that, but it just doesn't come naturally to me. So where are you from while we're waiting? Oh, it's really slow today. It's a weird time for me to be on. Saturday night, it's a long weekend. So I'm assuming I'll have a very small group tonight. It's Canada Day today, but we're not really allowed to celebrate it like we used to because a while ago they found a bunch of Indigenous children that had been, that had died years and years ago, and now we're all ashamed to be Canadian. As it's just, boy, people were cruel. I mean, I guess they still are, but it's just unbelievable what we did to people, isn't it? So yeah, we're sort of, I don't know if we're still celebrating Canada Day, but it sort of took the edge off of it. Rightly so. Belton, Texas. Hello, Belton. So yeah, we're not really celebrating Canada Day much anymore. I guess it still happens, but anyway. Can you say Isabella? Hello, Isabella. How old is Isabella? Cumberland, Maryland. Heard of that. Have you been here before? Because I've Super Chicken 72. I like that Super Chicken. That's cute. How old is Isabella? Australia. Love your content. Thank you. Yeah, I'm half Australian. I feel just as Australian as I do Canadian. I feel just as much connection to Australia. But I don't know if I could ever visit there again because I left just to be here for my mom in Canada, and I didn't want to leave Australia. I love Canada too, but I didn't want to immigrate again. Oh, geez, it was so much work. And I loved Australia. I never left Australia because I wanted to. I left for my mom. No regrets. Okay, so let's get going then. It's a very small group tonight. As expected, it's a long weekend for most people, so who's want to sit and listen to me? So, but I'm sure some of you're in different parts of the world too, so you don't have Canada Day, you have Australian Day. Can't remember when that is. Anzac Day, I mean, when is that? I can't remember. I never know when holidays are. Even July 1st, I can't remember as Canada Day. Like I know Christmas, I know my birthday, that's about it. Okay, so let's get going. If you go on the link above there, you can see everything I've got to offer if you're interested in learning more. I've got courses on there. My How to Get Respect in 5 Weeks is on there. That's paced all out so that you can learn how to get respect in 5 weeks, obviously. And then I have other courses. I also have coaching in there. And then you can download my free behavior board. That's all in the link above. I've just made a link for it. It's just easier for you to click on. You see, everything is just it's very easy to click. So first gift, thank you very much. I always say I never get any money on TikTok. I've been on here for a year and a half, and I've got tons of gifts. I've got over 500,000 followers, and yet I say you don't make any money on here, but turns out I do. My daughter and I dove deep into it, and I've got some money. I got like $200 in here. In Canada, TikTok doesn't pay. TikTok you don't monetize TikTok really. It's just a way to get your message across, I guess, and to have fun. But yeah, so thanks for that. It actually is money. Some of these gifts are money. So because I kept saying, well, people were saying, oh, we're sending you money. And I'm like, really? Where is that? I don't know anything about TikTok or anything else for that matter online. Okay. Have you got tips on parenting children with ADHD? My husband's also okay. It's all the same stuff. It's not a personality change. It just means that they might be a little bit more challenging. Autism is more personality based, like it's just harder. That's a specialty, and I don't really discuss autism on here because each child is unique with autism. Depends on where they are in the spectrum, and they all react differently. There's some common denominators, but sometimes there isn't. But ADHD, it's all the same stuff. Those are all the kids I learned this on. It's all I call them alphabet kids. They all had acronyms after their name, ADHD, WXYZ. I call them alphabet kids. It's all the same stuff. That's how I learned this. My kids didn't have it, but all the kids I've worked with, they never once ever said, here's an easy one, Lisa. Everyone always handed me, good luck with this one, Lisa. So it was always kids who were more hyperactive or other things going on. Thank you for the roses and all that. My son has autism too. Yeah, that's a double barrel. If you want my help with that, that would be coaching. One-on-one coaching. Well, I'm going to tell you a story, and you're not going to like this story, but it's a good one. And anyway, hear me out. This is for Damaris. I don't know if you know how to handle this, but my 3-year-old refuses to eat anything but chicken nuggets. I would not have chicken nuggets in the house. I'll tell you a funny, like my kids had choices. You could have this healthy food or that healthy food. We didn't have fast food or anything like that in the house. And so yeah, I would just suggest generally children will not go on a starvation diet and kill themselves. I've never heard of it before, but yeah, check with your doctor if you're afraid of it. But yeah, I just would only have healthy options. But make sure it's kind of stuff that kids tend to like apples are palatable. They probably won't like things like avocados and kiwis. They're a little bit more, but they usually like bananas, fruits or vegetables, like carrots are usually really like, I just get into all the healthy stuff. Go out and buy a roast chicken, see if they'll eat that, but just have those options and do not fuss over it. Anyway, here's the story that you're not going to like. It's probably relatable. Anyway, years and years ago, we had these neighbors, and there was this little girl, and the mother came over in a rush, and she goes, oh, and she didn't have a car, and my mom did, and she asked my mom, she goes, can you please do me a favor? She goes, Diana, her name was, they called her Tiger. Her name was Diana. Wouldn't eat anything but, what was it? Cheetos, I think it was, something like that. To me, it's like an orange stuff in a bag. I think it was Cheetos. And that's all she would eat, nothing else. She literally would not eat all day, just waiting for these Cheetos because she knew she'd get them. So anyway, my mom did go out and buy these Cheetos. That little girl, all her teeth ended up falling out because all she ever ate was these Cheetos. She ended up having black teeth, and they all fell out. So they had to be pulled out. Anyway, my point is you are in control of what your children eat. When you say that's all she'll eat, is she getting in the car, driving down and buying them herself? You're providing those for her. So yeah, you're just going to have to take charge and say, here's the new menu. There's no more chicken nuggets. How to keep your teens away from Snapchat, etc. I wouldn't do that. That's how they communicate now. I would not keep them away from that. I would maybe limit the screen time, but even that's how they relate. I wouldn't try and keep them away from that. Yeah, with the food. Yes, they will go all day without eating. Don't give them milk though. Milk is liquid food. So they will go all day without eating. Yes, it might be a day or two. Just make sure they have lots of liquids, like maybe something like, I don't know. I can't talk about it really. I'm not a nutritionist. But yeah, they will, but check with your doctor if you're worried about it. But is it better for your child to only live on chicken nuggets or go a day without eating? But if they're having milk or anything like that, that's liquid food. So yeah. I went through that with my son. I decided he went through a real fussy period. So I thought, well, that's fine. He's just not going to get he's just not going to get anything or something that wasn't healthy. He was eating healthy stuff, but it was only toast or something. So anyway, sure enough, I was feeding him milk all day. He went like 2 days with no food. Finally, I clued in, like milk is food. It's, it'll fill them up. Someone said that's abuse. He survived. Yeah, you can call. He's 33 now. He survived it. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm saying you check with your doctor. I'm just saying what I went through with my son. You said my child has begun wondering. I don't know what you mean by that. Eating chicken. Yeah, don't go after that parent. They're doing the best they know how. Are you making any mistakes? You get kids on here who troll, so I'm assuming you're a kid. Oh no, I got a kid on here. Should I just Oh, wander. Okay. That's a what do I call them? Runners. I call them runners. So you got a kid who wanders away from you, just put them on a leash, a restraint, or a harness, whatever you have to do, just to keep them safe because you don't want them running out under traffic, right? So yeah, and then they have to earn their freedom. You say, okay, now you stay with me. If you don't, you're going to be clipped into this again. So make sure they've got the harness on and then clip them in. You have to clip them in for that entire outing. Don't go on, out, off, on, off, on, off, on. Just when you clip them in, that's it for that whole outing, right? That whole day or whatever. And then you say the next day, next time you go out, you say, okay, now you don't run away from me. And you take it off. Second they run, you be ready to clip them in real fast. They will learn. It's going to be difficult. These lessons do not come easily, but they're worth it. They're going to put up a stink. 4-year-old daughter won't listen to dad, but will listen to me. Dad gets so frustrated. Well, I don't know what you're doing. So I can't really comment on that. Like, you have different parenting styles, obviously. They only need one leader. And as they get older, like my son would have pushed his dad around more when I wasn't around. So his dad, we discussed it. And they said, he said, he said, what do I do when he starts to push me around? And I said, just say, do you want me to tell mom? They only need one leader. And if you're a really good leader, they respect everybody. They just do. So yeah, they just do. 2-year-old started screaming loudly for fun. When I try to correct it, it makes it worse. What do you mean correct it? You ignore that stuff. You ignore the stuff you want to disappear, like tantrums. You ignore the stuff when they go in the crazy zone or doing something you don't like, you just ignore it. That's how you communicate with a 2-year-old. It's all actions. It's consistent corrective actions. And ignoring is an action. So yeah, they learn through repetition. They don't learn through words. There's many therapy sessions discussing everything. Just before I came on here, I thought, Lisa, don't go on a rant about the mini therapy sessions. So I'm not going to, but they're not about words. Toddlers are about actions. So ignore. Do not try and reason with a 2-year-old. Sorry, I live downtown. I don't even hear the sirens anymore unless I'm talking to you or I have someone new over who's not used to it and they go, oh my, a lot of sirens. I love downtown life. I could have actually lived on a quiet street, like a half a block away. It's beautiful tree-lined quiet street. No, I want to live on the busy road. I'm a downtown girl. Okay. Why do my kids act up when grandma is around? They might get more excited, but their activity level, their hyperactivity might go up a level, but they should still be polite. So if they're not, that says to me that you're not a leader because they're going to be, if the leader's around, they're just polite with wherever they are, whoever they're with, wherever they are. So, but yeah, work on your leadership skills if that's the case, if you're around. But if they're just with grandma, then that's a different thing. If they're under 3, that's a bit different. I've seen some say teach them they can be mad and upset, but they're not allowed to break things or be violent. I'm sure you're saying. Well, you don't teach them, they just learn. You just restrain, you still ignore tantrums when they're going out of control. You ignore the crazy, reward the calm. But you can restrain them when they get violent. So when they're getting violent, you hold them, restrain them from being violent, but you still don't look at them or talk to them. They get it. It's all about actions, not words. Is it true the safe parent gets treated the worst, though? I don't know what you mean by safe. Who's the safe parent? What do you mean by that? How do you become a leader? Any key tips? It's really about bonding with them, being fun. I always led with fun and humor when I was working with kids. And then if they acted out, I'd say, I didn't like that. Then I'd say, I'm just going to take a little break here for a few seconds. And I would get real quiet. They did not like quiet Lisa. They wanted the fun Lisa back. So I used that. That was my only leverage when I was working with kids. But with my own kids, I kind of got respect when they were tiny. So I didn't ever need to discipline them. But it's all about being really, really consistent and guiding them into making good choices. I never really told my kids what to do. I just said, I didn't like that, so there's going to be a consequence. They learn right from wrong like that. They just get it, and then they start to make good choices. If they know you're the type of parent who's always going to correct the wrong, they're just going to stop doing it. So, and you always want to focus more on the good kid and deal with the bad behavior, but focus on the good kid. So you want to make them feel good about themselves. When they feel good about themselves and they like themselves when they're with you, they naturally want to please you. When they're little, then when they're teenagers, they just don't want to disappoint you because you want them more to be their own leaders. But yeah, you're there for backup. But yeah, they want to please you, and they'd be humiliated if they were like naughty with someone else and it got back to you. They'd be embarrassed. When you get that leadership cemented, they carry your leadership umbrella everywhere. When they treat you with respect and you've got that, it's mutual. That's why you're on the behavior board. I was accountable too. If I messed up, my kids got to discipline me too. I'd say something like, geez, sorry, mom was too impatient with you. What do you want? Oh, can we please go to here? Oh, sure, okay. So it was mutual. You see, you give respect to get it. You don't demand it, you command it. Do you help with parental alienation? That's a very tricky one. Yeah, I deal with a whole bunch of crisis work. I built my business on crisis work, especially with troubled teens. So I do deal with it, but there's no guarantees with anything. But I've dealt with that before. It's tricky. The thing is, kids tend to believe what parents tell them. And no, like let's say the other parent's alienating the kids against you. No matter how you are with them, when they're little, it's very confusing for them. And it is very, very tricky. So it's more about how you keep going and how you go throughout the years and how you start to build trust and respect down the road. It's very tricky. Anyway, I have a 3 and 5 and under. 3 to 5 and under. It's hard sometimes. 4-year-old autistic and 5-year-old ADHD. Yeah, it's really tricky. It just is. But we're never fixing kids here. We're teaching parents. I'm teaching leadership here. I teach you how to be a calm leader. Now, I've worked with kids, all types of kids, hundreds of them, teenagers, little ones, and I was able to get respect with all of them because I work on my leadership skills. I don't try and fix them. I work on my leadership skills. If they messed up, I always blame myself. I go, what did I miss? What could I have done better? See, I'm always working on myself, not them. You lead, they will follow. It just happens. That's all I teach. If you want to learn how to get respect, I've got a whole course on that. It's in the link above, how to get respect in 5 weeks. I said, what could that be? What could what be? The Agostino fam. Agostino. Struggling with my daughter being very nasty, but well, how old? Talking back after school, events, parties. So she's older. Is she 9, 12? How old? Oh, 5. Okay, let me just read through that. I don't think you're going to like my answer. I'm just going to clarify. Struggling with my daughter being very nasty, bratty, talking back after school, events, parties. Okay, she doesn't respect you. Work on your leadership skills. I was just saying, whenever kids are acting out around me and I'm in charge of them, I always think, what am I missing? I'm not being a good enough leader. What am I missing? When they're 5, they should want to please you. That's just the way it works. Whenever parents say, how do I address attitude? I say, you don't. Attitude is just a tell. It just means that you're not a leader, that they don't respect you. So work on your leadership skills. That's all I teach. I never teach parents how to fix kids. I teach you how to be a leader, and you're guiding your children into making good choices. That's all it is. That's all it is. And they can learn this. They can be really good at this I would say my kids were kind of self-disciplined by the time they were 3.5 to 4, where I didn't have to discipline them anymore. They just knew right from wrong, and they knew mom knew how to take care of business. So why would, if they did act out, my mother used to say something like this. Like if I ever did anything naughty, she'd look at me like this. She'd go, are you kidding me with this? I would be embarrassed. Like, are you kidding me with this? And that was sort of what I did too. I just go, really? And oh, sorry, mom. So because that's respect, right? I was embarrassed. If I got that look from my mom, I remember I was embarrassed. So it's about your leadership. She's good everywhere else. I don't get it because she's familiar with you and she can push you around, and she'd be too embarrassed to act like that in front of other people. That's why it's social pressure. But there's none of that with you. She's very comfortable with you. She's very comfortable wiping her feet on you. Work on your leadership skills. That's all it is. If you want to check out my course, it's in the link above. It's 5 weeks to get respect. It sets you up as a leader. It's nothing to do with her. It's you. Your children's behavior, their basic personality and their basic natures they're born with. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of you. That's all it is. You're their leader. Their behavior is just a reflection of your parenting. So work on your leadership skills. It's all you. It's all you, which is good. You can only change yourself anyway. So it's good news, right? 15-month-old biting, hitting, head on ground when frustrated and angry. You just restrain them. I've even suggested, because that's still like a baby. A baby to me is up to about 16 months. Still a baby. I've even suggested some of my clients, if they do that all the time, because they have no sense of reasoning, they don't stop and think, if I smash my head on the ground, it might crack open. Like they just don't think, right? They don't know. They're just brand new. So I've even recommended foam helmets, and just to help if you really can't get there in time. Otherwise, just restrain them and say no. You can pick them up, have them facing away from you, and hold their back of their head with your hand so they can't headbutt you. But yeah, they'll outgrow that. They'll smash their heads enough times and they're going to go, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. But yeah, they all do that. They all throw themselves back on the ground when they're tantruming. That's just part of it. How do I help my 7-year-old boy stop being mean to my 3-year-old boy? Good one. I like this one. You're going to like this answer. Use my behavior board. It's free up there in the link, behavior board. And you put down on the behavior board, wait a minute, what's he doing? Is he hitting him? I missed it. 7-year-old boy being mean. Okay. You put down no being mean to your little brother. And every time, that's his rule. No being mean to your little brother. And then you put down, I will decide what that is. So he can't argue it. So you say, I've decided that's mean. He might say, but he did this. And say, well, I'm making that call. Because remember on the behavior board, I decide when that happens. So you're just eliminating any arguments. So here's the consequence for that. His little brother gets to play with his favorite toy for an hour. Like whatever is his favorite toy, he has to hand it over to his little brother for a whole hour. There's a million other ways of doing that, but it's always he has to give something that he likes and doesn't want to share. He has to give that to his little brother to play with for a whole hour or even the rest of the day, whatever you decide on. Anyway, so that's a really good example of the punishment fitting the crime. It's not always possible or applicable because if they hit someone, you don't want them being hit back, right? But it's still the punishment fits the crime. Hey, you do something mean, you have to replace it with something nice. So you're teaching them how to be. You're not just teaching children what not to do, you're teaching them what to do. So you're teaching him to do an act of kindness for his little brother after being mean to him. That's a good one. That's one of my favorite disciplines because parents say it works. Like parents rave about that one. But a lot of this is just general advice. Sometimes people will say, I tried that, nothing's working. Well, you got bigger fish to fry. You got other things you got to work on first. Okay, so it's sort of like saying, well, fruit is really good for losing weight, but if you're backing it up with a pint of ice cream every day, you might not lose weight. See what I'm saying? Like these things do work, but it's sort of a big package. If you're not a leader, none of this stuff's going to be great. So you want to work on your leadership skills. You can start with my free behavior board. It's up in the link above. It's all clickable really easily in that link. The behavior board's free, or you can buy my course. That is how to get respect in 5 weeks. That'll teach you how to be a leader. If you want even more help, one-on-one help, you can hire me for coaching. And we do everything. That's all done on Zoom. Okay, you said, I like gentle parenting, which I don't teach. Their dad is in the old days, so he's the authority. I tell him they don't respect him. They are more afraid of him because he is dead. I'm trying to get him to work better with me with him. Okay, I can't address gentle parenting because I don't teach that. I teach calm leadership. I don't even know what it is. I just made that term up. I just teach how to give respect to get it. So I don't know anything about gentle parenting in that I don't study. I've never read a book on anything else. I don't know what other people are teaching out there. So yeah, I don't teach that, so I can't comment on that. Frustrated, tried timeout, firm no, and ignoring but getting worse. I hate timeout, can't stand it. I think it's mean and humiliating. So that if you're mixing my method with timeout, it's going to tank. So yeah, timeout I think is humiliating. I would never do that to a kid. You go sit in the corner. You're not even worth talking to. Go in that corner, nose to wall, and you think about what you did. Then afterwards, I'm going to come over and berate you about what you did wrong. Like I just hate it. It's awful. So anyway, yeah, anything I say isn't going to work if you're using timeout. Get rid of the timeout. Why does my child poop on the walls? Okay, well, I don't know. Are they two? Sometimes 2-year-olds will stick their hands down their pants and smear it on the wall. For a 2-year-old, that makes perfect sense. Now, if they're 12, then you'd want to maybe look into it. But yeah, 2-year-olds. Imagine if you've only been in this world for 2 years, and one of those years you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like you're a brand new, fresh human being. You don't know what things are, right? You're just learning. And that's why they're watching, they're not listening to you. They're watching you. They're watching you. They're learning by watching you. I'm not saying you did that, but I mean, they're just going to try stuff, right? You know what I mean? They don't have any concept of the world yet. Thoughts on sending soon to be 2-year-old to daycare for social interaction only child? That's sort of like accelerated learning people, which I'm against, by the way, accelerated learning. Don't get me on that binge. I've just had a lot of experience with kids who were accelerated, and that's why I don't like it. Anyway, but yeah, that's sort of like they're going to catch up eventually is what I'm saying. So if you start early, they're going to catch up when they eventually go somewhere anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Do you know what I mean? Like once you send them out there, they're going to learn. Um, but I did with my kids. I didn't do it on purpose, but I work out every day. So when my kids were little, it drove me nuts in the first year because I couldn't go to the gym every day. I could only go at night or weekends, and I kind of didn't do it I didn't work out every day. So, but once they were up on their feet comfortably, I took them to the gym every single day, like weekday, because they had a great daycare there, and all my friends had their kids in daycare, so it was like a social club for the kids. And but I didn't take them there when they were crawling because I just thought that was kind of gross. So anyway, once they were up on their feet, they went there every single day. My daughter never loved it. She was she was like cling wrap to me. She just wanted to be with mom all the time. Couldn't get rid of this. She was a Velcro kid, but couldn't get her off me. But and that was really good for her. She still ended up having fun, but she was very happy to see me. Whereas my son was not happy to see me. He had all of his friends in there, and then he'd cry on the weekends when he couldn't go because it was only open Monday to Friday. So yeah, whether or not you start at 2 or 4 or 5, whatever, they go into preschool or kindy, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. It is. Although I did have them when they were babies. I put them in swimming lessons and gymboree and all that stuff. I did all that with them. So you can still be there and do that with them. But when they're really little, and especially when they're babies, they don't tend to play. They play beside each other, but they don't tend to play with each other. That really doesn't start until they're about, what age? Depends. 2.5 maybe, when they actually start to play together. Um, 2-year-old refuses to sleep in his room for the past week. Please help. Yeah, just keep putting him back to bed. You say, look, you're going to stay in bed. And then every time he gets up, the first time he gets up, you say, I said it's bedtime. Put him back in bed. Then when he gets up the second time, you say one word, bedtime. Every time after that, you don't look at him or talk to him. You just calmly and slowly put him back to bed. You may only get one body part of his to touch the bed because he might be squirming and screaming. That's okay. You're calm as anything. Keep putting him back. You should be able to outdo him. Like he should tire before you do. The longest that ever went was an older kid, and the dad all he did was drink and curse me all night long. It went all night till 5 in the morning. It was a much older kid, and and the dad just hated my guts that whole night, and he was drinking heavily, and the wife had to take over. The dad got so drunk. I'm not saying he should do that, but the way he was telling the story, I was just in stitches. He was very funny, and he said, and that was it. The kid never got up again. One night of sheer hell, and the kid never got up again. So yeah, if they know it's not an option, they do tend to give up. If they know you actually are a leader and you're in charge. Like when I said something, it was going to happen. My kids would have been more likely to push their dad for sure, because sometimes he would give in. I would never have given in, ever, ever. When I said something, it happened. So I was very careful what I said. I didn't threaten what I wasn't willing to follow through on. What do you do if your two daughters snuck out of the house at 2 a.m.? You have to hire me for that. Okay? That's not a TikTok answer. I don't know what kind of parent you are. I don't know what your history is. I don't know why they snuck out. What were they doing? How old are they? Are they sexually active? Do they do drugs? Do they drink? What time did they come back? Blah, blah, blah. I need to assess the whole situation before telling you how to move forward. That's a 5-week session. You'd have to buy 5 sessions. Teenagers are my favorite age. That's how I started my business. But they take the longest to get respect from. For sure. You've got history, right? And by the way, you get respect with young children by disciplining. You get respect before you discipline teenagers. So parents with teenagers always hire me to correct something. And I say, we might get to that in week 3. And they're like, what? And I say, yeah, we got to work on your relationship first. We got to do some damage control first. So yeah, parents are never happy with that. That first session, they never like me. No, I don't care. I'm here to get your results, not to be popular. Mine was super clingy too and shy, but now so bossy and disrespectful. You go, remember, it's not the kid, it's you. Their behavior is just a direct result of your parenting. Work on your leadership skills. That's all I talk about here is leadership skills. The kids are irrelevant to me. Like what I mean is their behavior is just a clue to what kind of parent you are. You're only working on yourself, not your kids. Once you're a leader, they will follow. You lead, they will follow. Their natural instinct is to look to a leader. If you don't provide that leadership, they're going to be susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go in, they're going to be very vulnerable without a leader at home. Right through the teen years, you want to be that safe place to land. They're going to tell you everything. When you get good at this, by the time they're teenagers, they'll tell you everything. They're normally so well behaved and we have a close relationship. Yeah, but do they respect you? They do, if they're sneaking out at 2 in the morning, you got to work on that. Is it ever too late to begin calm leadership with your kids? I don't think so, but it's a lot of work when they get older. It's a lot of work, and it's worth it though. You can because you're working on the relationship. You're working on, and the 2 most important skills with teenagers. Things shift and change a lot in those teen years. That's why that course is for 3 to 12-year-olds. You can't use the behavior board under 3, so it starts at 3, and then 12 years old, things really start to shift for 13, 14, 15 when they're teenagers. So that's a different ballgame. With teenagers, the 2 most important parenting skills are, number 1 is listening to understand and then stop talking. You listen to understand and show empathy, not sympathy, empathy. So you listen to understand, you go, yeah, yeah, that's frustrating. I know, I'd feel like that too, right? That's what empathy is, relatable. So you say it and then stop talking. If they want your advice, they will ask for it. If you offer advice after they've just told you something, they're going to shut you out. If they don't want to hear it. They already know what your advice is anyway. They just want to be able to unload. You want to be a safe place to land. What will happen is when you get really good at listening like this, you don't listen to gather information to lecture with. You listen to understand and show empathy. When you get good at this, they'll start telling you everything and they'll start asking your advice. And then even when they ask, you say something like this, well, I don't know. Let's figure it out together. Here's what I might do. What do you think? So you see, you're working things out with them. You want to raise problem solvers. You don't want to be solving all their problems. My mom, I was really little, and if I went to her with a problem, I would say, "What should I do?" She'd always say, "Well, you're a smart girl. You can figure it out." And we'd talk about it. And I always thought I was coming up with all my own solutions. So she raised a problem solver, very confident problem solver. That's what you want. You don't want to be telling them what to do, especially when they're teenagers. It's not going to work anyway. Good luck with that. Okay, so that's number one skill with parenting is listening, with parenting teenagers especially. It's the best, actually, it's the best skill with all ages, but it's especially important with teenagers. Listening. Then the second one is negotiating. You say, "Look, I want you home by 11 o'clock tonight." They say, "Well, how about 1?" I'd say, "Okay, let's meet in the middle, 12 o'clock. We got a deal?" See, like that, you negotiate pretty much everything with teenagers. My son was 15 years old, and he said to me, "You've been a really difficult mom." And he was like kind of upset when he said it. And I said, "I thought I was great. We were like close. Everything was going great." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "Because I've got nothing to rebel against. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to. That's why I was so difficult." He had nothing to rebel against. See, I was never telling him what to do. Anyway, so I said, "Fine, go clean your room." And he never did. Rebellion taken care of. He needed to rebel. He just had nothing to rebel against, because I was a leader. So it's never too late. Oops. How do you lead below 3? That's all consistent corrective actions, because toddlers learn through repetition. Plus, follow through. Never yell, never look angry. You're very calm and you're fun. You're but you're fun. You bond with little ones in their world. Like I used to go to the park and roll down the hill with the kids. You bond with them in their world, and you're consistent, you're calm, and when you say something, it happens. When I said, "No, we're going home now," I'd say, "We're going to go home now." "No, can we stay?" I said, "We're going home," and I would have dragged them home. Like once I said something, that was it. So, and they just learn, and they like that. They're very drawn to that. They want to please you. So, yeah. Okay, random, but I just wanted to say I have gained so much respect from my kids recently. Excellent, Lexi. What did you do? Kids don't want to disappoint a parent they respect, learn to get. Yes. Oh my God, yes. They want to please you. And you know why? Because when they like themselves and they have high self-esteem and you're the cause of that, don't you want to please a person who makes you feel good about yourself? It's not that they're begging for your approval. It's nothing like that. They want to please you because they look up to you. You're like a mentor to them. It's like that. So once you've got their respect, and it's mutual, you respect them too. Plus, if my kids were disappointed in me, I would have been upset too. Like when my son said I've been a difficult mother, I was upset. Like I want to please him too. You know what I mean? Like it's mutual. So yeah, when your kids like themselves when they're with you, they naturally want to be around you, they want to please you, they want your advice, they look up to you. That's normal. That's normal. You think about it. If you really look up to someone, have you ever had like a mentor, maybe a sports coach or a really good teacher or boss that you just admire? Were you ever rude to them? How did they treat you? Did they make you feel good? Did they bring out the best in you? So that's what this is all about. You bring out the best in those kids and their self-esteem will skyrocket. They'll like themselves when they're with you and they're going to want to please you. That is your power there. That's it. That's leadership. Okay. Gonna check out your courses now. I get so overstimulated. I'm 100% not a leader. Anyone can learn this, okay? Anybody. It's a teachable, learnable skill. It's not like a artistic talent. You know what I mean? Or singing. You don't have to I would love to be able to sing. I would love that. My voice is more like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah, you don't have to be born with any of this stuff. It's a learnable skill. I know it is because I've been teaching this for 17 years and I know clients learn. But I get a lot of pushback in that first session, a lot of it, and I'm so used to it by now. Especially with teenagers. They hate what I say in that first session. They hate it. The parents do. And is it harder to learn with teenagers? Yes, it is. Because you have to eat a lot of crow, do damage control, and apologize. And then parents say, "That's not fair. They treat me like crap. Why am I apologizing to them?" Because you're the leader, because you're the parent. Has to be done. We have to break down defenses. We have to build reciprocity with teenagers. We're working it. We're working it. It's hard. And they're on to you. They know exactly what you're doing. That's why you got to do it. They get it. They just like that. They get it. They're not on board right away though. They're going to test you, and I love all that. That's my favorite age, teenagers. How to build kids self-esteem to also respect you as a leader. That is how you do it. When they make good, you're guiding them to make good choices. When they make good choices, the world will tell them how great they are. There wasn't one teacher who didn't constantly say, like, God, your kids are so nice. Like, I heard that all the time. And then they just feel good. Coaches, everyone said, your kids are so polite. Like, I heard that all the time. And they're like, they're proud of themselves. That's where the self-esteem comes from, making good choices. The whole world will tell them they're great. That's the way it works. Oh, you asked about your nieces, nephews. I don't teach aunting or uncling. I only teach parenting. The reason is, if I told you what to do to get respect, then the parents didn't like it. See what I mean? I only teach parenting. I stay in my lane. But a lot of my clients have child development degrees. They're in the school system, they're staff, they're principals, teachers. A huge portion of my clients are that. Or they might be child psychologists. And I know some of them are hiring me to work with their students because and I say, I don't do that. So they'll pretend they're their kids and they'll talk about it and they'll admit it later on. So, but yeah, because they're very different. Teaching is an institution, parenting is personal. So there's certain things will not overlap at all. Like, I could never teach. Parenting is a piece of cake, easy for me. Teaching, God, I'd wet myself if I had to get up and teach. So yeah, they're different roles. What parenting books do you like? I've never read one. Kids taught me all this. I'm kid taught. So why would I ever read a book? You know what I mean? It wouldn't make any sense. Kids are my teachers. I studied them. I worked with them. I mentored them. Teenagers, kids, they were my teachers. I was going to be a child psychologist, so I thought, and I was about 20, so this is like 42 years ago. And I went to a prerequisite course I was going to be a child psychologist. Within 1 week, they kicked me out. I asked too many questions. Plus, the other students started asking me. I had tons of experience with kids, and they started asking me questions. I'm sure they've improved it now, but what they were saying was a bunch of crap. It was so holier than thou patronizing, the way that they were outsmarting the children and, like setting themselves up. It was more the authority style parenting. I hated it. It was just garbage. And I'm sure they fixed it up now. But yeah, I should have held out because I'm sure they would have paid me double to get rid of me. They hated me. And then thank God I never did it, because could you imagine? Then I realized kids are the best teachers in the world. And I studied them. I was obsessed with figuring them out. So if you don't want to spend like 50 years trying to figure kids out like I did, I can teach you what I learned. But they were my teachers. Did you go to college how would I learn this in college? Kids taught me all this. I did have to take I did have to go through some training through the government to get into certain institutions, like into homes through the government programs, into some hospitals, into some schools, as working with delinquent teenagers, but I never used any of it. I always knew I had my own style, and I was never going to use what they said. So, and yeah. How could I book coaching with you? Oh, just go up in the link above and it'll say coaching in there. Everything I've got to offer is in that link. It just makes it easier for you than going to my website. But it's all the same stuff. It's just all in bullet form. It's just super easy. And some of my clients are child psychologists, and they usually hire me when their kids are tweens or teens, because even though they've got a child development degree and they're very good at what they do, like I could never be a child psychologist. I couldn't do it, right? I don't have the qualifications to assess what, like some of these psychosis situations. I have no qualifications with that. I've worked with those kids, but as as a parenting coach. But yeah, they'll hire me just because they've never lived with a teenager before. If you haven't lived with a teenager, you can't teach it. You can't teach parenting teenagers if you haven't lived with one. You have to have lived with teenagers. You have to finish the job before you can teach this. But yeah, if they haven't lived with and plus, remember, anyone who has got a child development degree, it's not that I'm so smart and all that. It's just they're learners. they, what I say is just all based on experience, and I'm old, right? So I've learned a few things, and they're just, they're learners. So they're not just probably hiring me, they've probably hired other people and bought books. So they're learners. So it's not that they're struggling more than other parents. It's just that they are very obsessed with learning and seeking out knowledge in different places. That's why. So I just want to make that really clear. It's not that they're going, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. It's just that they are learners, and they seek out information like crazy. I probably shouldn't talk about her, but I do have a client right now. I've been working with her for quite some time, and she's very qualified with kids. She asks the best questions. I just love working with her. She asks just the best questions, just really clever, and I just love that. And yeah. Experience is why I trust you. Yeah, and if you don't feel comfortable with me, go to someone else. But there are two things I would look for. If I was going to take parenting advice from someone, because parenting is personal, it's experience based. How can you possibly teach parenting if you haven't finished the job with your own kids? I don't even get that. Like, it's just because you have to have finished the job. That's number one. And the second one is I didn't learn a lot with my own kids. I learned most of this through working with other kids with tons of challenges. My kids, I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through the teen years. So you have to have experience with hundreds of other kids too. It's heavily experience based. So, but I'm sure there's lots of other people out like me that have all that experience. But it takes that, because if you haven't seen everything, how can you teach it? And if you only have little kids, how do you know where it's headed? How do you know if what you're doing when they're 3 is going to serve you well when they're 13? How do you? I work backwards. I work from the teen years down. I want to get you through those teen years. Those are the tricky ones. That's where I'm headed. I'm always working backwards. I know how to get you into those teen years. And that's what you look for. You look for someone who's finished the job and has experience with hundreds of kids. And like I said, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I just saw a toddler and a mom at Costco, and she's talking and said, deal, and shook the kid's hand. I don't know what's going on there. I just saw a toddler and mom at Costco, and she talking and said, deal, and shook the kid's hand. Experience. That's cute. I don't know what that was. That's cute. Oh, you're talking about a parenting book. I can't comment on any. I've never read a book on kids or parenting, so I can't comment on that. I was actually asked a few times to do this, to go on a panel with other, and like big talk shows, and to go on a panel with other parenting experts and sort of debate. I would never do that. Never in a million years. I'm not going to go up there. Someone says something, that they really believe in, then I'm going to say that's crap. I'll say it to you because I'm not talking about anyone personal. I don't know who teaches what. I have no idea. I stay away from that. So if I'm saying something's crap, I don't know who's teaching it. I stay out of that. But yeah, I couldn't do that. I just couldn't. I would be very uncomfortable getting up there criticizing and critiquing other people's advice. I would be I just think that would be kind of trashy or something. I couldn't do it. So I couldn't imagine getting up there. I just cringe at the thought of that. Okay, good question. When you change their rule for week 2, do you change your rule as well? ML Johnston. That's in reference to the behavior board. The behavior board, you'll have 3 of them eventually. Week 1 is one rule for everybody, the whole family. Week 2 is a different rule, but it only needs to be for the kid. You only need to change the kid's rules. Do you know what's interesting? Is kids often don't comment on that. Their rule changes. They will have 3 different rules. Their consequences and your rules and consequences can all stay the same. If they're working, keep them the same. Kids never comment on that, which I always think they will. I've got answers for it. I just say, well, come up with a new one then. But you can just keep yours the same. But yeah, you don't have to change. Only their rule has to change. If everything else is working, just keep doing it. Isn't that funny that kids, I would think they would. Sometimes they surprise me. Well, they all surprise me with that. Another thing that parents will say to me, because if you yell, your consequence is something like this. You have to play hide and seek with them for 10 minutes if you yell, something like that. So you're being kind to them. If you yell at them, you have to be nice to them. You have to do something. So it's bonding with them, right? So that's your consequence for yelling at your kids, something like that. So then parents often say to me, they'll say, and I'll usually say this before they even ask now, I'll say, don't worry about them thinking that being with them is punishment for you. Not one kid in 17 years I've been coaching now, not one kid has ever said, You mean being with me is your punishment? Like as if they're upset by it? Not one. In 17 years of doing this, not one kid has been upset that you're going to play hide and seek with them. That is like punishment for you. They love it. They're thrilled. It's fun. It's interesting though, isn't it? I can kind of see how parents would think that, but I wouldn't have thought they would have thought that. They're just so happy you're playing hide and seek. Like, why would they care if it's your punishment? They don't care. But yeah, I can see why parents would think that. Isn't it going to hurt their feelings that that's a punishment for me? No, they don't care. Well, I say this all the time, but maybe one of them one day will. But I've worked with hundreds or thousands of parents by now. Not one kid has complained about that. Interesting, isn't it? I can see how you would think they might. Oh, I see. He had done something. It's the Costco kid, the 2-year-old. He had done something wrong, and she was bargaining with him. Then said, "Deal." Like he had all the power. Yeah, she may become a client one day. If we got a deal, a 2-year-old, you're cutting deals with 2-year-olds. Or maybe, I mean, I don't know. You saw the situation. Maybe she was, appeasing him. That's the pleaser parent, by the way. That's the mini therapy session parent. Yeah, discussing all their big feelings and big emotions, and it's all therapy stuff. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, my sons would say, "Yay, let's get mom to yell then so we can play hide and seek." Ever get that before? No, no. That came up recently. That came up, I think it was just last week. She said that the kids said, "We're going to get you to yell so that you have to do that." And then they didn't. So, no, that doesn't come up. And if they did, then you would change it, right? But yeah, the kids thought that. They said that they were going to do it and then they didn't. So, parents, I think that was that parent that asked these great questions too. This parent just comes up with these questions. They're just really good questions because she's got child development degree, like quite high up. So she just asked the best questions. I love working with her. I love all my clients because I mother my clients. I'm older than all of you now. When I first started my business, it was a little bit because I'm in my 60s now. It was a little bit trickier because I was younger and some of my clients were older, and I have to get kind of tough with parents sometimes because they used to argue with me more because I might have been younger than them. And now I'm older than all of you, so it's just easier because I feel maternal towards you, um, which is why I love my job so much because my kids are grown, so I still get to mother. I've got all this maternal stuff floating around inside me. So that's why I love talking to you guys because I can still get that maternal stuff out. My 6-year-old says no to everything. You're not a leader. Just work on your leadership skills. You can either check out my link above, and you can either get my behavior board. That's free. You can hire me for one-on-one coaching, or my courses Get Respect in 5 weeks. That just has sort of everything in it. But if you want one-on-one personal attention, like coaching, that's coaching, private coaching. That's all done on Zoom. But anyway, yeah, you're just not a leader. That's all. Like if my kids had said no to me, I would have gone, "What?" And they would have gone, "Oh, sorry." Like it just wouldn't have happened. When you're a leader, they don't talk like that. They don't give you any sass attitude or back talk. Um, I'm a single mom of 3 girls, 3, 5, and 6. I'm really struggling. You might want to check out that course. It might be perfect for you. That's in my link above, and it's Get Respect in 5 weeks. There's a lot to it. It's paced out over 5 weeks. You can look at the whole thing first, but then do not rush through it. Pace yourself out. It's very specifically. I've spent 17 years figuring out how to pace you guys, and the course is all paced out week 1, week 2. The first 3 weeks of the behavior board, then you want to pull away from that because I never used a behavior board. You don't want to be using that forever. You pull away from that, and it teaches you that weeks 4 and 5 are in the moment disciplining when you just deal with everything in the moment rather than having to refer to a board all the time. So yeah, it just sets you up. It teaches you. And then sometimes what people are doing with that now too is they're saying, okay, well, we've got something a little bit trickier here. So if it's something, really different, I can't go into detail, but then they'll hire me for coaching in addition to that sometimes too. So, but overall, that's got all the information there. So when I'm coaching you, I'm not going to tell you everything. Like that talks about sex education. It's got everything there like an encyclopedia about how to be a calm leader, right? Whereas when I'm coaching you, not everything comes up. So it's kind of nice to have both. The course is for 3 to 12-year-olds. Oh, no. No, it doesn't. That's coaching. The reason is If your kids are still living at home and somewhat financially dependent upon you, you could hire me for one-on-one coaching. But when they've got to that age, I need to know, I need to assess your history, assess where you're at, assess what's happening, and then I have to give you advice. And it is very different for every single family when they get that old. Um, my favorite age is teenagers, and people often think I'm crazy for that. Some people say I've never heard anyone say that before. They are. Do you know what's interesting is I've been hired by a huge portion of my clients are teachers, social workers, school counselors, principals, child psychologists in that group. They have child development degrees, but parenting's different. It's personal. Like I couldn't do any of what they do, but parenting's different. And anyway, do you know I've never been hired by a youth worker? Not once, not ever. They work with troubled teens. They're like the school counselor, but they're in high schools, and they're youth workers. They sort of become like a mentor to the troubled teens, and they've never hired me. And you know why? If you can get respect from a troubled teen, you don't need my help. You just get it. That is your PhD in all this stuff. If you can get respect from a troubled teenager, that is your PhD. And yeah, if you can get it with tons of them and you've just proven that you can do this, it's not about outsmarting them. It's quite the opposite. It's about being vulnerable and about opening your patience. It's a whole other level. I learned more about myself and about life working with troubled teens than probably anything else in my whole life. I learned more about myself and how to be vulnerable and how to have patience and also how to have compassion towards other ways of looking at things. Like to me, hey, why would you do that? That's just wrong. But to them, if you've been raised in an abusive home, that's right. That's normal. So I had to learn how to have this empathy for and compassion for how they were raised and, and work with all that. So yeah. Anyway, teenagers are my favorite. Uh, bu- 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 Toddlers understand cause and effect actions, but what about verbal cause and effect? Don't run or you might fall and get hurt. You're saying that to a toddler? You mean you're trying to reason with them? Um, uh, yeah, I said at the very start of this live, I said I'm not going to go on a rant about the mini therapy sessions. I can feel one coming on right now. I would just say no running. I wouldn't bother explaining why. And if they run, I would grab them and say, I said no running. If it's a dangerous situation, it's not about the words. It's not about the reasoning with them because they don't understand consequences when they're 2 years old. They just don't. So discussing it, they will learn through consistent corrective actions or falling a lot. They'll eventually learn because they learn through repetition. They don't learn through words. It's repetition, it's actions, it's experience. They don't learn through words. They just don't. It's not the way their brains work. Yeah. How to deal with little kids. This is one I don't have a straight answer for. How to deal with little kids refusing to go to sports practices, keep going back or drop it. I used to say to my kids, I have two kids. One was a compulsive joiner, still is, and the other one wasn't, still isn't. I mean, and I'm not a joiner. I'm more in the middle, actually. But I would say to the one who wasn't a joiner, well, you have to be doing something. So you choose what it is. And then once you've chosen what it is, you have to commit to going all the time. You just have to. It's going to happen. So yeah, and it wasn't like I chose it. It was just, here's the three options. You have to pick one. You have to join something. And then you have to commit to it and keep going. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean anything to me. Like you're going, once you're committed to something, it's like school. Just because you don't like it, you still have to go. I taught them about responsibilities, right? Commitment. I just read some. Where is it? Oh, I don't have it anymore. Perfectionism. You're talking about a kid who's being perfect. Oh, I sort of wrote something about it. Here's your question, mozzarella. Cute. What to do with an 8-year-old that struggles with getting everything perfect, if not gets very frustrated? I actually am going to do a video on this, and it kind of relates to that. The video is going to be called something like this. I just wrote a note to myself. Let your kids learn to fail. It builds resilience. He's not resilient. And also failure is the way you get places. You have to be willing to fail. In other words, failing is a good, I told my kids, if you're not failing, you're not trying. Like failing is part of the success in life. They always say the road to success is paved with failures. So he, for some reasons, thinks that failure is a bad thing, but it just means, hey, you're learning. That's what that means to me. Yeah, you messed that up. Big deal. Now you know what to do, don't you? Like to me, and also, are you competitive when you're playing games with your kids? Do you make a big fuss over winning? That often causes that. So like my mom used to say, like we were like old, like in our 50s and 60s, and my mom would say, you're such good sports. She said that our whole lives to my brother and I. She was so proud of the fact we were good sports. We play hard. We play to win, but we don't care if we win. Does that make any sense? We try our hardest and we play to win, but we don't care if we win. So my mom taught us that it's how you play, not whether or not you win or lose. And she always said, I'd rather lose and play well than play poorly and win. So she always focused on the trying and the playing and the effort. She never focused on the winning or the losing, ever. So I'm suggesting you might do that a little bit. Maybe that's causing that. But yeah, my kids were, because I talked about failing all the time. If they mess something up, I go, yeah, that was stupid. Wait till you hear what I did when I was your age. Like, I'd tell them a story of something I did, and we'd laugh at it. Like, big deal. It takes confidence to laugh at yourself. That I'm very into self-deprecating humor. I always was, because it makes people laugh, and it's likable too. Like, are we perfect? Do we want to be? I've met the odd person who thinks they're perfect or tries to put on that image. They are the most boring people you'll ever meet. I mean, who wants to be around someone boring? Not me. Perfection is overrated. It's boring. You're trying to reason with your toddler? Yeah, don't do that. Toddlers learn, if they're under 3, they learn through consistent corrective actions. They do not learn through words. So if they throw toys, you say no, and you put that toy away where they can see it and they can't touch it. Put that away, and then just don't talk about it. Do not talk about it. They already get it. Hey, I threw it, now it's up there. Ding, 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 they get it. They'll throw something else, it'll go up there. They'll learn maybe after 100 times. They learn through repetition. They don't learn the first time. If they do, that's rare. It's usually the 50th or the 100th time. So yeah, throw something. And you got to be consistent, though. They'll remember the one time you don't take it away. So they'll eventually stop doing it. Is 3 too young for organized sports? It depends. If they're with other 3-year-olds, then that's fine. But it's not it's not organized. Like, it's just chaotic, like T-ball and all that. They can start that at 3, like, but it's not organized. I remember watching my kids running in races at school, and they were, well, in kindy, and they were 3 years old, and they're running. They'd start out all together running. Next thing you know, one of them's running off to the side. Another one sees a little weed, and they pick that up. Another one sees a bug. Another one just stops and wets himself. There's nothing organized about it, but it's fun. It's more fun for the parents, I think. But yeah, it's not organized. Ah. I remember that really well. My son, I never waved at my kids when they were running in a race, because they'd just go and they'd stop and wave. Hi, mommy. Just keep going. It was so cute. And we'd be laughing. There you go. Soccer with 2 and 3-year-olds last year was a riot. Yeah, one will sit down and start crying in the middle of the field, and one will sit down and poop his pants, and oh, they're great. Oop, I have to get going, actually. Yeah, I got to get going. Anyway, if you check in my link up above, it's got everything that is up there to help you. My behavior board's completely free. My coaching isn't free. That's one-on-one Zoom coaching. But I think one of the best things I've got going right now is that Get Respect in 5 weeks, because it's like an encyclopedia about all this. It has all the information in there. And then what parents are doing is they're buying that course, and because it just has all these other little tips in there about, how to do allowance, sex education, all that stuff for 3 to 12-year-olds. And then if you still want to talk to me, you can hire me while you're doing that course or after the course too. Because sometimes you'll have something a bit different, or, that isn't sort of in the norm. And then you want to talk about that. Or you might just want to see if you're doing it right. Anyway, so yeah, check that all out. It's in the link above, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Happy Canada Day if you're Canadian. By the way, we're not really celebrating that anymore, evidently, because there was evidently there was 300 indigenous children that were found, they had died, and the government let them down, and now we're all humiliated to be Canadian because of that. I don't know if we used to be crueler than we are now. Like, I can't even fathom something like that happening. When you look back in history and all this horrible stuff that used to happen, it's just disgusting. I don't feel guilty about it because I didn't do it, but it's amazing to me how cruel people used to be. I don't think they are anymore, are they? I just think it's weird. Like, I sometimes will read about history and geez, they were really cruel. They did all these horrible things to people. Anyway, so yeah, it's still Canada Day. I'm still proud to be Canadian, but we've got that big black mark on us now, which is just horrible. But anyway, okay, well, happy Canada Day and happy 4th of July. I'll probably be on here 4th of July for the Americans. And anyway, we'll talk again tomorrow. Take care. Bye now.